So I looked at what commonly gets requested in the comments and rounded up the ones I see the most. Then I asked you, what do you think? And you gave me a quantum answer, so here's everything you missed in Marvel's Ant-Man and the Wasp.
This is awesome.
Ant-Man and Wasp starts out with Scott Lang on house arrest. Well, actually for the bots that don't watch every single Marvel movie that comes out, they start off by giving you a small recap of what's going on. Then we get to see Scott Lang finishing up house arrest. Of course, this is because of the part he played in Captain America Civil War. Agent Jimmy Woo is in charge of making sure Scott actually stays on house arrest, even though he doesn't really do a very good job. But Scott, on the other hand, actually did do a very good job of not violating his house arrest. That is, of course, until he gets dragged out of his own house against his will in a bathrobe to go on an adventure. This is a call out to the movie The Big Lebowski, where Lebowski also got dragged out into an adventure while wearing a bathrobe. Also, the show that Scott's watching before he's kidnapped is an Easter egg to Animal House.
Our whole solar system could be like one tiny atom in the fingernail of some other giant being.
That was a quote that inspired the director.
Like Baba Yaga. Baba Yaga, the witch. They tell stories to children to frighten them. You know Baba Yaga?
Baba Yaga is an old fairy tale from Russia. Of course, more recently, you might remember John Wick was also referenced to as Baba Yaga.
We call him Baba Yaga.
Oh, you don't find someone like that. They find you.
Like Baba Yaga.
Well, John wasn't exactly the boogeyman. He was the one you sent to kill the boogeyman.
Baba Yaga! Oh my God! Oh my God! We're gonna die! We're gonna die!
Yeah, actually, it's very possible they can die. The suits seem to be super strong when they shrink down, but if you look at an earlier scene when the car shrunk down, something as weak as a pigeon can dent the hood. So a brick that's probably going, I don't know, 60 miles an hour would most likely be game over. But if we go back and look at the pigeon denting scene, look closely at the guy in the background opening the door. That is Steph Soretti, the visual effects supervisor. But back to the dent. Why is it when the car expands to normal size, the dent is gone? I don't know if this is part of the technology of growing and shrinking, or if they simply forgot to include the dent. But if it is part of the technology, then shouldn't the dent return when the car is shrunk back down to the miniature size? And if growing and shrinking fixes the dents, then it should fix the van after it crashes, right? Oh wait, it does.
You gotta chin up because you'll find a new partner. But you know what? I'm Luis.
No Marvel movie is a real Marvel movie without some sort of famous Stan Lee cameo. This scene here is the very first scene that they filmed for the entire movie. We can see Stan Lee gets his car shrunk by Wasp because she's a bad shot.
Well, the 60s were fun, but now I'm paying for it.
And he makes a joke referencing to the side effects of taking drugs in younger years. However, it's reported that Stan Lee in fact didn't do drugs in the 60s, and in fact he put propaganda in his comics to discourage the young people from taking drugs. Speaking of drugs, I don't know if this one is product placement or someone in Marvel loves it just as much as me, but on the table there is a bottle of A1 steak sauce. That stuff is so good you're gonna think it's illegal. Hashtag not sponsored. The Quantum Shrink Tunnel was based on an old TV show from the 60s called Time Tunnel. In that show, they didn't really shrink tiny though, instead they traveled, hence the name. And even though this movie's about an ant, at the time of production, the science lab here was the largest set ever built for a Marvel movie. The actual pod that they used to travel into the quantum realm was also inspired by a movie called Fantastic Voyage, where they basically shrunk down an entire ship to go into a human. Perhaps this is where Miss Frizzle got her idea on the magic school bus.
Tell me you really destroyed it.
I did. I destroyed it, I swear.
If Scott did decide to destroy the suit though, wouldn't the suit just end up like Violet's suit? I thought these suits were super strong. We already learned when Scott went subatomic in the movie Ant-Man, we saw him tangle with Hank's wife. Speaking of the movie Ant-Man, in that movie Hank busted Scott out of jail, and ironically in Ant-Man and the Wasp, Scott Lang is now busting Hank and Hope out of prison. And it's pretty much the same exact way. The crazy car chase through San Francisco referenced a lot of movies. This hill jump scene was a nod to the movie Bullet. Someone else who did a lot of hill jumping in San Francisco though was Hank Pym, and that was a show called The Streets of San Francisco. Original, right? Only he wasn't called Hank Pym in that show, he was called Steve Keller, and he was a rookie inspector. In the elementary school here, when Scott Lang ran down the steps, this was a green screen set of stairs, and they laid that over the real set of stairs. Now I think this next one is a quantum Easter egg.
Do you guys just put the word quantum in front of everything?
The hoodie in the Lost and Found box reminds me of Pixar's short film, Lou. Of course, that's my opinion, and I'm not saying that's a confirmed Easter egg. But watch this. Lou was the short film that Pixar played before showing Cars 3 in theaters. And guess what? One of the storyboard artists for Cars 3 was none other than Edgar Carapetian. And guess what? Is also the guy who orders the big security project from XCon.
I was looking at the schematics for the Carapetian buildings.
Coincidence? I think not. Now, an obvious pun most people understand here, but just in case, XCon is a play on ex-convict, because all the employees are all former criminals. But the university here is modeled after Monsters University. Okay, not really, it's actually Berkeley University, which is also one of the college campuses that Monsters University was actually designed after. Paul Rudd did do some schooling on his own. He actually learned some of the close-up magic that we see in the movie, specifically for the movie. That's right, this scene right here isn't CGI. He can actually do that trick. And I tried to learn how to do that trick, but I wasn't very good at it. How about we just do this? Green screen. Ta-da!
Oh, Nate. How many other horrible decisions have you made in your life? I'm guessing a lot.
Relax. No one's gonna recognize us.
What, because of hats and sunglasses? It's not a disguise, Hank. We look like ourselves at a baseball game.
This is clearly Marvel making fun of their own logic to be camouflage. With the exception of Loki, of course, most of the time it's pretty obvious who they are. But if you look in the background, you can see the campus police. So this is probably the exact moment they were spotted, and or that little kid on the bike is just being a snitch.
This guy's a snitch. He's the snitch.
We're gonna believe that guy?
Most Marvel movies hide bonus clips in their credits, and Ant-Man and Wasp was no exception. Halfway through the credits, we have a mid-credit scene.
How's everybody doing tonight in the quantum realm?
Scott, we read you.
I just want to make sure. Okay, healing particle secured for our new ghost friend.
Great. Preparing for re-entry in 5, 4, 3...
Hello? Ha ha, very funny. Hank, quit screwing around. You told me yourself not to screw around.
Then, after all the credits, we have a post-credit scene. But this mid-credit scene raises a lot of questions for me. One quantum formula that doesn't seem to add up is how the quantum realm plays on time. Janet Van Dyne was lost to the quantum realm for 30 years, and this is what she looked like going in it, and this is what she looks like coming out of it, 30 years later. Now, I'm not an age expert, but I'd say she looks about, 30 years older. But when Scott gets stuck in the quantum realm for 5 years, he then says in the quantum realm 5 years is like 5 hours. So then based on that very same logic, if Janet Van Dyne was down there for 30 years, doesn't that mean that she should have been coming out looking 30 hours older, not 30 years older? Also, if you look closely beyond the void down there, it appears they put another Easter egg in the quantum world. Because right here we can actually see several little cities behind protective little bubbles.
Wings and blasters. So I take it you didn't have that tech available for me.
No, I did.
The reason why Hope has wings and a blaster and Scott doesn't isn't just because she's Hank's daughter, but it's also because it's modeled after a Wasp, who also has wings and a stinger. Ghost's hideout in real life is an abandoned mansion in Georgia. The director's thought here for the movie's sake was to imply that it could have been Ava's house growing up as a child with her parents, and since her parents died, it's just her alone in the mansion. They also played on the fact that her name is literally Ghost, and they're in an abandoned mansion. That's why if you listen closely, you can hear a wolf howl. And just moments later, we see them all tied up to chairs. This is clearly calling out to a famous show called Scooby-Doo. In the comics, Ghost was actually a boy, but they made Ghost a girl because they felt it would be more of a dynamic fighting scene with Wasp if it was a girl. Her dad is Dr. Elias Starr, who is also known as Egghead in the Marvel Comics, even though in the movie his head isn't exactly shaped like an egg. The Egghead here is an evil mastermind, so I don't feel so bad for him. I don't know if his wife was a mastermind though. We could feel sorry for her. Cassie also seems to have an Easter egg on her jacket. At least I think it's an Easter egg. Here's how. Hank was the first one to wear the ant suit, then Scott was the second person to wear the ant suit. Hope, on the other hand, was wearing a Wasp suit, not an ant suit, so she doesn't count. So far there's only 2 people that's actually worn the Ant-Man suit. Then we're gonna see Cassie as the 3rd person in the ant suit, hence the 3 on the jacket. I mean, when we did see her in Endgame, she's grown up a lot, so she's getting close to Spider-Man's age, and Marvel already exercised the father-son role with Spider-Man and Iron Man.
And now for the big unveiling.
So it makes perfect sense to me that Cassie is going to be the young superhero that we see for the girl role model, and we're going to see Hope as her mother. Not literally, because she already has a mother, but you get what I'm saying. Mother-daughter role.
Just as I suspected all along.
The story plot of the movie is like an onion, and it has so many layers that seem to perfectly fall together. For example, when the feds rush back to Scott's house, we perfectly assume that the feds are the ones at the door. But it's actually the family looking for Cassie's soccer shoes. If you listened earlier, they gave breadcrumbs that would lead up to this very moment to justify them coming over unannounced and just barging in.
Did you pack your soccer shoes?
Yeah.
Cassie, are you okay? What's the emergency?
I can't find my soccer shoes.
Scott?
Daddy?
It's us, buddy.
We're here for Cassie's shoes.
One layer of the onion they probably hoped you didn't see was the camera operator when Scott opens the door. Probably the biggest oopsie I saw in this movie was when they were leaving the secret lab. If you watch the window, you can clearly see the camera operator being pulled back on the dolly.
No. No, 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 no! No!
No! No! No! When Ant-Man fell into the water and splashed the crowd, they used high-powered pressure cannons to create the scene. Now that wasn't exactly an Easter egg, I just thought it was super cool and I had to show you. Okay, back to the fun stuff that they actually want you to find. If you look on the wall in the house, it's literally a drawing of the house. Probably concept art. For the younger version of Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne, they used CGI, basically the same logic of a Snapchat filter. But for the younger version of Dr. Bill Foster, they didn't use Lauren Fishburne and CGI his face, who is actually the actor behind Dr. Phil Foster. Instead, they used his real-life son, Langston Fishburne. The movie at the drive-in at the end was a shout-out to a movie called Them, which is a vintage film about normal-sized ants that turned into super-sized ants, and now they're trying to take over the world.
One is a genius, the other's insane.
I've arranged some buyers for your lab. Starting bid, $1 billion.
Sonny Birch was on the phone with someone who wants to pay $1 billion for the lab. So today's question is this: who do you think Sony is talking to? S.H.I.E.L.D., Green Goblin, Thanos, Loki, or somebody else? Thanks to the members who support the channel. If you want to support the channel or see your name appear, click the join button below. Let me know what movie you want to talk about next. Subscribe so you don't miss our next adventure. And remember, most importantly of all, gents and gentlets, share a smile. They are contagious.
Hey, share a smile. They're contagious. Can you imagine a day without smiling? That would be outrageous. Thanks for stopping by and hanging out with Crazy Nate. Make sure to leave a thumbs up if he left you feeling great. Have fun and we'll see you next time. And don't forget to subscribe.